Shavua Tov, everybody. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, brought to you, as always, by Lay of the Land. So let's take a look at those top stories as we do every Monday to Thursday, and we begin with the big news today, and that is the IDF are currently engaged in a wide-scale operation in the West Bank city of Jenin. So let's take a look at events as they have unfolded throughout the day. The IDF started their operations in the early hours of this morning and stated that their intention is to root out terrorism. Their intention is not to undermine the Palestinian Authority in any way or to occupy or annex any land. Their goal is specifically to root out terrorism. Now, Jenin, we have been speaking about for a long while now. Jenin is a hotbed of terror activity. In fact, at least 16 of the 28 terror attacks carried out this year were planned and executed either from terrorists within Jenin or who have come from Jenin. It is also a hotbed of terror incitement, and under the Oslo Accords falls under the remit of the Palestinian Authority. Now, the IDF have confirmed that at least 10 drones have been used to carry out airstrikes, and there have been heavy exchanges of gunfire, including close to a mosque. The IDF also reported a short while ago of uncovering a massive weapons facility and uncovered hundreds of different equipment and bearings used to make weapons to kill Israelis. The Palestinian Health Ministry have reported at least 8 Palestinians killed. Israel confirms these numbers, saying that at least dozens have been arrested as well. We can confirm that at least 2 Palestinians are being known to be receiving medical treatment in Rambam Hospital inside of Israel. One IDF soldier was lightly wounded by shrapnel from a grenade. However, he has returned back to his unit. Israel's allies, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, have both condemned the operation, and the United States have said they are aware of the operation and hope for no further escalation. The operation into Jenin today, which is part of the bigger Breaking the Wave, has been in the planning for at least a year. And according to Defense Minister Gallant, he says, "We will root out terrorism wherever it rears its ugly head, and let this be a message." He also went on to say that the operation is achieving its goals, which is to stamp out terrorism. Israel's opposition leaders Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid have firmly put their support behind the IDF and the government. In other news, there are protests underway at Ben Gurion Airport. These are protesters that are against the proposed judicial overhaul, something we've been speaking about a lot here on the Israel Brief. And while they have been given their right to protest, as is their right in a democracy, police have said they will cap the number of protesters at 5,000 and have appealed to them not to block any roads. There have been some reports of clashes between protesters and police at Natbag Airport. Now, Airports Authority and protest organizers say that this shouldn't disrupt any flights at all. Organizers say they have specifically chosen Ben Gurion Airport because it is such a symbol of a thriving, robust democracy. Meanwhile, earlier today, Brothers in Arms, one of the organizations also involved in protests, blockaded Haifa port. Meanwhile, the Knesset have resumed work on judicial reforms, and both the Knesset and protesters have come under heavy criticism for carrying on with their work while our troops are engaged in a major operation. At least 1,000 soldiers have been deployed in Jenin. Meanwhile, last week we brought you the news that the Prime Minister had told the Wall Street Journal he had thrown out the very, very controversial override clause from within the proposed judicial overhaul. In his meeting with his cabinet ministers yesterday, he said that despite the interview, he does think that a more watered down version of the override clause will be implemented. Prime Minister Netanyahu has overruled Itamar Ben-Gvir, the National Security Minister's decision to halt work on wind turbines on the Golan Heights. Last week, members of the Druze community very close to the village of Majd al-Shams rioted, throwing Molotov cocktails and setting tires on fire. The Druze have said that the wind turbines encroaches on their ancestral land and their agrarian way of life. The Prime Minister has postponed work on these turbines for several months. And finally, because we really try and end with some good news, I don't know what's happening in the water as far as Israeli soccer is concerned, or football, or whatever you want to call it, but our under-21s have qualified for next year's Olympics in Paris. They were playing at the European Cup and they beat Georgia 4-3. They will now take on England. This is the first time since 1976 that an Israeli soccer/football team has qualified for the Olympics. So we are beyond proud. And whatever you guys are doing, just keep doing it, because really, I don't know what's happened, but certainly a fire has been happening on the pitch when you play Israel. So that brings me to the end of today's edition of the Israel Brief. Just on a personal note, I was very privileged in a restaurant for lunch today to meet the US Ambassador to Israel, Thomas Nard. He couldn't have been more gracious and more friendly. So shout out to Ambassador Nard if you're watching the Israel Brief. In the meantime, please don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook community is at Lottle site. Guys, let's get past those Facebook censors. Like us, follow us, share our content. We are on YouTube at the Israel Brief. We would love it if you haven't already to click that red subscribe button. And we're on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5. I'm Rolene Marks, wishing you all an awesome evening, and I'll catch you again tomorrow.